the roadside encounter. The scratching on my car roof stopped the moment I opened my eyes. That should have been my first warning. Animals don't take breaks from being curious, but people wait. If you've ever driven alone at night and felt like something was wrong, really wrong, hit that subscribe button. Because what I'm about to tell you will make you think twice before pulling over on any dark road ever again. 2 years ago, I thought I understood fear. I thought fear was failing an exam, or getting pulled over, or maybe running into an ex at the grocery store. I was wrong. Real fear is realizing that the darkness you've been staring into has been staring back. It started innocent enough. Family reunion, about 2 hours from home. Nothing unusual about that, right? Except I'd made the mistake of staying too late, caught up in conversations and obligated small talk, until suddenly it was past 9 p.m. and I had a long drive ahead of me. I should have just gotten a hotel room, should have called in sick the next day, should have done anything except what I actually did. The first hour wasn't bad. Highway driving, a few other cars, street lights every now and then. Normal. But then I had to take the exit toward home, and that's when the road changed. You know the kind of road I'm talking about, the ones that seem designed for horror movies. Dense trees pressing in from both sides, branches hanging over the asphalt like gnarled fingers. The kind of road where your headlights only penetrate about 20 feet before the darkness swallows everything. I'd driven this route dozens of times before, but never this late. Never when the trees seemed to lean in closer. Never when the silence between my tires and the pavement felt so heavy. About 45 minutes into this stretch, exhaustion hit me like a physical weight. Not the gradual tiredness you fight off with coffee and rolled down windows. This was different. One moment I was alert. The next, I could barely keep my eyes open. My head kept nodding forward, and I'd jerk awake to find myself drifting toward the shoulder. I knew I was in trouble. But here's the thing about that particular road. There's nowhere to stop. No gas stations, no rest areas, nothing but trees and darkness for miles. Just endless forest pressing in on both sides, and the occasional flash of reflective eyes watching from the tree line. After another close call where I nearly kissed a guardrail, I made a decision that still haunts me. I found a spot where the shoulder widened slightly, pulled off behind some thick bushes, and figured I'd catch a quick nap. 20 minutes, maybe 30. Just enough to get home safely. I remember checking the time. 11:22 p.m. The car felt suddenly quiet after I turned off the engine. Too quiet. Even the usual night sounds, crickets, distant traffic, the settling of cooling metal, seemed muted, like the forest was holding its breath. I tilted my seat back and closed my eyes. Sleep came immediately, which should have been relief. Instead, it felt like sinking into something that didn't want to let me go. The scratching woke me up. At first, I thought it was a dream bleeding into consciousness. You know that space between sleep and waking where everything feels unreal? But the sound was too specific, too rhythmic, like fingernails or claws, dragging deliberately across metal. I checked the clock. 11:50. The scratching continued for maybe 10 seconds, then stopped. Complete silence again. My heart was hammering, but exhaustion was stronger than fear. I told myself it was just an animal, a raccoon maybe, or a cat. Something curious about this metal intruder in his territory. I convinced myself it was nothing and drifted back to sleep. The second time, it was 12:40 a.m. when I jolted awake. The scratching again, but now it seemed more intentional, slower, more deliberate, like whatever was making the sound was thinking about each stroke. This time, it didn't stop. Scritch, 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 always in the same rhythm, always in the same spot, right above my head, moving from the roof toward the driver's side window. I held my breath, trying to convince myself I was still dreaming, but the sound was too real, too present. That's when logic tried to kick in. Animals don't come back after an hour. They investigate, lose interest, and move on. They don't return to the same car, at the same spot, making the same deliberate sound, unless they're not animals. I forced myself to look in the rearview mirror, tilting it down to catch whatever was on my roof. For a moment, I saw nothing but darkness and the faint outline of trees. Then something moved, something that seemed wrong, too tall and too angular to be any animal I knew. The moment my eyes focused on it, it was gone. Just gone. Like it had never been there at all. But I'd seen enough. Whatever it was had dropped down from my roof and was running, not walking, running, back into the forest. The way it moved wasn't quite right, too fluid, too fast, like it wasn't bound by the same physical rules that governed everything else. My hands were shaking as I started the engine. Every instinct I had was screaming at me to get out of there, to put as much distance as possible between myself and whatever had been scratching at my car. The headlights swept across the trees as I pulled back onto the road, and for just a moment, I thought I saw something pale moving deeper in the forest, keeping pace with my car. I pressed the accelerator harder. The road ahead curved sharply to the right, and as I came around the bend, my headlights illuminated something that made my blood freeze. Another car, parked on the shoulder, driver's door hanging wide open. The interior light was on, casting everything in a sickly yellow glow. I could see that the car was empty, but the engine was still running. The headlights were on, pointing uselessly into the trees. I slowed down, not because I wanted to, but because something about the scene demanded attention. The car looked like it had been abandoned mid-escape, like someone had been driving, pulled over suddenly, and then just run. The driver's seat was pushed all the way back, and there were scratch marks on the exterior. Familiar scratch marks. Long, deliberate gouges in the paint, starting from the roof and dragging down toward the windows. That's when I saw him in my rearview mirror. A man sprinting around the curve I'd just navigated. But the way he moved, it was wrong. His arms hung too loosely at his sides, and his stride was too long, covering ground faster than any human should be able to. Even from a distance, I could tell something was off about his proportions. He was shouting something, but his voice carried too well through the night air. Words that should have been muffled by distance and wind reached me clear as day. Hey you, get the fuck out of your car, now. Not a request, not a plea for help, a command. And underneath the words, there was something else, something that sounded less like desperation and more like hunger. I didn't wait to see what he wanted. I floored the accelerator and got the hell out of there, watching in my mirrors as his figure grew smaller and smaller until the road curved again and he disappeared from view. But here's what still keeps me awake at night. As I drove away, I caught one last glimpse of him in my rearview mirror. He had stopped running and was just standing in the middle of the road, perfectly still, and I swear, even from that distance, even in the darkness, it looked like he was smiling. I made it home that night, but I never felt safe again on that road. I started taking the long way, adding an extra hour to my drive just to avoid that stretch of forest. But sometimes, late at night, when I'm driving alone, I catch glimpses of things in my peripheral vision. Pale shapes moving between trees, keeping pace with my car. And sometimes, just sometimes, I hear scratching. The worst part isn't what I saw that night, it's what I realized weeks later, when I finally worked up the courage to research that stretch of road. 3 people had gone missing along that route in the past 5 years. All of them had been driving alone, late at night. All of them had been found abandoned cars with the driver's door open and scratch marks on the roof. They never found the bodies. I still don't know what I encountered that night. Maybe it was just a disturbed person living in the woods. Maybe it was something else entirely. But I learned something important. When every instinct you have is telling you to run, listen to them. The forest has eyes, and sometimes they're watching you sleep. What do you think was really out there that night? Was it human or something else entirely? Share your theories in the comments below. And if you've ever had your own encounter on a dark road, hit that subscribe button. Because in the darkness, we're stronger together than we are alone. Just maybe don't drive alone at night anymore.